purpose of my speech is to persuade, but more specifically to persuade my audience that racial profiling is wrong. It happens everywhere, but more commonly in the United States. It happens in all states, all cities, and all communities. It has a target of minorities, and it doesn't matter your education or socioeconomic status. It is racial profiling. According to the ACLU, racial profiling alludes to the discriminatory practice by law enforcement officials of targeting individuals for suspicion of a crime based on the person's race, ethnicity, religion, or national origin. Racial profiling is a well-established and profoundly troubling national issue in spite of the assertion that the United States has entered into an era that has risen above racial profiling and racial inequities. First, I'd like to provide you with some history and background about racial profiling. Second, I would like to explain why racial profiling is wrong by discussing biases, stereotypes, and giving statistics. And finally, inform you of why everyday racial profiling is dangerous. History of racial profiling. Racial profiling dates back to the days of slavery. Sociologist Robert Staples emphasizes that racial profiling in the United States is not merely a collection of individual wrongdoing, but rather a systemic experience in American society dating back to the era of slavery. The first documented case of racial profiling dates back to 1693, when a Philadelphia court gave police officers the right to detain any African American who was free or enslaved. According to the ACLU, racial profiling affects a wide range of communities of color. More than 240 years of slavery and 90 years of legalized racial division have led to systemic profiling of blacks in traffic and pedestrian stops. Politicization of racial profiling. In the late 1990s, racial profiling became politicized when police and other law enforcement came under investigation for disproportionate traffic stops of minority motorists. Civil rights organizations such as the ACLU and NAACP launched a national media campaign calling for the ban on racially biased policing, which caused the Department of Justice to enter into consent decrees with several jurisdictions and prohibiting discriminatory vehicle stop and search practices. Problems with the search and frisk policy. 87% of all people stopped are Black and Latino, though they only make up 23 and 29% of our population respectively. Stop and frisks as carried out in New York breeds mistrust of law enforcement among communities of color. Now that I have informed you of some history and politicization of racial profiling, I would like to provide you with information about biases, stereotypes, and statistics. What minorities deal with every day is driving while black, a phrase that is used in American English that refers to racial profiling of African American drivers. The phrase implies that a motorist might be stopped by police because of racial bias and not because the driver has violated any laws. There's also shopping while black. And another bias and phrase commonly used for this type of marketplace discrimination that is called consumer racial profiling. Consumer racism or profiling in a retail setting where shopping while black describes the experience of being denied service or giving poor service because one is black. Stereotypes perpetuated by society. Black men, especially young black men, are stereotyped because they look threatening by either the clothes that they wear, the music they listen to, or how they speak. Demographic factors such as race can influence how people interpret physical traits such as height. This difference in evaluation is a matter of meaning and not of size. According to the Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences of the USA, research in 3 studies tested whether taller black men were judged as more threatening than shorter black men and both taller or shorter than white men. Results show that young black men were perceived as taller or more threatening than young white men. Frightening racial profiling statistics. African American or black drivers are twice as likely to be arrested during a traffic stop. African Americans are 3 times more likely to be searched during a police stop as compared to Caucasians. In 4 states, police officers are more likely to stop black drivers for no discernible reason. They are also more likely to use force if the driver is black, even when no physical resistance is encountered. Now that I have given you a lot of information to think about regarding racial profiling, let's continue to build on that by talking about everyday racial profiling, why everyday racial profiling is dangerous for minorities. Consequences of racial profiling. According to CNN reporter Holly Chan, research shows that vast long-term and chronic ill health issues and concerns arise for those who experience racial profiling because of the constancy of stress. High blood pressure, panic attacks or anxiety attacks, and things of those natures have been documented. Also, the impact of employment for African Americans have been affected because white interviewers sit further away from African Americans, and they cut the interviewing time by 25% as compared to those of white interviewees. Another thing is death, as in Sandra Bland, who was stopped for a traffic violation and was jailed and ultimately died. And also Trayvon Martin, who was profiled by a neighborhood watchman for wearing a hoodie. With this documented information, the U.S. government should provide racial prevention programs and training that will aid law enforcement to have a stronger understanding of how to interact with people of color. These programs will help safeguard innocent people without reason to be suspicious and regain the trust of those that are here to protect and serve. Today I have given you a lot of information about racial profiling, but I would like to conclude this speech by stating my name is Nikole Guyton, and I am a black woman that has been profiled more times than I can count, and what is going on in my community today scares me. I pray every day that there is not another case of racial profiling, especially one that ends tragically. I pray for my family, especially my boys, that every time they walk out of the door that they will return to me unharmed. Racial profiling is wrong and has been proven time and time again, and I call on you, beg of you, to stand up and speak out when you witness this behavior. We just want to be treated equally and fairly. Thank you for your time regarding this important matter.